You're listening to E-Commerce Fastlane, episode 19.
Welcome to E-Commerce Fastlane, the podcast show to help you build, launch, grow, and scale a wildly successful e-commerce company. Listen to real conversations with proven practical strategies and success stories. Learn how to generate more traffic, more sales, more profit, and customer lifetime value for your Shopify store. And now, your host and e-commerce entrepreneur, Steve Hutt.
Hey there, it's Steve, and welcome back to the E-Commerce Fastlane podcast. Now, if this is your first time listening, this is an e-commerce show where we have honest and transparent conversations about building and thriving online with your store powered by Shopify or Shopify Plus. Now, new episodes are available each week in iTunes and Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, and now Spotify. And you can also sign up at ecommercefastlane.com, and you can be notified when new shows are being released. Now, on today's episode, I'm chatting with Josh Esner, who is the co-founder of Swell Rewards, and he has an incentive marketing platform that really helps Shopify store owners drive more revenue and lifetime loyalty. So let's jump into the show. Hi, Josh, and welcome to the show.
Hey, Steve. Thanks so much for having me.
My pleasure. You know, we've been, I would say it's probably been 6 months since you and I have been first met, and then have been chit-chatting back and forth about wanting to get on the show. And I know you've been working on, you've had quite a roadmap, and you've been working with a lot of premium clients, big merchants on Shopify Plus. And I'm so glad that we're finally able to sync our calendars. I'm really glad you're here.
Yeah, I'm really glad that we can make it happen. And it's been it's certainly been a busy few months, but I remember that first conversation we had back at shop.org, I think it was, quite some time ago. So a lot's changed since then, but yeah, I'm glad that we could make some time for this.
Cool. So I know a lot about your journey kind of leading up to building and be co-founding the Swell Rewards solution, but can you kind of share with the listeners your entrepreneurial journey?
Absolutely. So my journey starts actually maybe in a slightly different place than many entrepreneurs. I was a management consultant as a background. So very deep client services experience. Really learned a lot there about not just building and running a business, but I like to say that they taught me how to think there. So we'd have to give these very structured presentations and in boardrooms. And so I like to think nowadays that when I give presentations, if there's a place where I learned how to sweat it out, so to speak, it was early in my career. And I think it set me up pretty well to do what we do here at Swell today. So I did that for about 4 years, and had one other job before then. And then right in probably the beginning of 2015, in the management consulting role, the next logical path, the thing that everybody tells you to do is go to business school. And so every month a different partner would ask me, when are you going? Where are you applying? And it didn't feel right to me. I wasn't exactly sure why I was going. I started going through the application process, but I really didn't understand the value out of it, besides the fact that it was supposed to be my next logical step in my career path. So instead, I had this very good friend of mine. We've been friends for probably 13 years now. We just so happened to live next door to each other in our freshman year dorm here in Boston. And so he said, "Hey, I'm working on this project on the side. I'm going to go quit my job to work on it. Do you want to join me?" And at first I said, "Yeah, it sounds really cool, but that's just that's just not what I'm supposed to be doing." And eventually, over the next couple of months, the more we talked about it, the more the more I realized that was what I was really excited about. And so by spring of 2015, I'd quit my job and was working on Swell full time.
You don't hear as many stories like that, though, leading up to what you actually have produced today, because typically, your family, your parents, just kind of force you down this journey of no, I'm going to school to do this, and I'm going to go through this kind of thing. And I guess you never necessarily considered yourself to be an entrepreneur, but your friend kind of nudged you in the right direction, and thankfully so. And it's great that you've built up this platform. It's really exciting.
Yeah, I would say he helped me uncover the entrepreneur was inside me, but we had to polish off a few layers first, right? And
Yeah.
if nothing else, in the early days, the drive to to build and to put in the hours and everything like that.
Mm.
Yeah, let's say it didn't hurt that I had a lot of family and friends who maybe in the back of their minds were thinking, not exactly sure what Josh is doing over there. We
Yeah.
think he was going to plan on doing, but they were luckily they were pretty nice about it, and nowadays they don't ask those questions anymore. So maybe we did something right.
Definitely. That's definitely a good pivot then, because I want to dig into, well, I want to call it the elephant in the room, but and you probably call it the good stuff. But tell me about this whole Yotpo acquisition. And for those that are listening, Yotpo is a review and kind of user generated content platform that is massively popular on Shopify, and they have acquired Swell Rewards, the company that Josh and his co-founder have built over the years. So I'd like to hear this story and kind of how it all went down.
Yeah, yeah, sure. And I think it's certainly important to note as we talk about this that there's tons of exciting stuff going on, and our team is super excited about the move. But I still think of myself as the one of the founders of Swell. I still think of myself as being responsible day to day for running Swell. And fortunately, the team at Yotpo recognized that we were onto something, and so their goal is not to completely disrupt the good thing that we have going, but just to help us add a bit more fuel to the fire. So the story actually starts when I say it's been a busy few months. The story actually starts probably back in January or so this year. Um, Swell had historically been bootstrapped. And so, in other words, we had raised very little money to fund the business. The business was funded just right off of the back of the revenues that we earned in exchange for our software. And so my co-founder Jim and I took a step back at the beginning of the year, and we said, the bootstrap model is great because we really control our own destiny, right? So we can guarantee both ourselves and our clients that we are not going out of business because we made sure that the money coming in each month was a little bit more than the money going out. But we felt like there was just a lot of opportunity out there. And when we were on our own, right, when we didn't have any sort of institutional backing, it was just really hard to do all of the cool things that we wanted to work on. And so whether that's new product ideas, whether that's building out our client facing teams, right, we were just starting to feel more and more constrained. And so long story short, we said, okay, we're going to go raise money for the first time. We are going to do the rounds with the VCs. And so we did in Boston. And I spent my time working and refining pitch decks and all that good stuff that those of you who are listening and have raised money know you have to go through. And so fortunately, and maybe luckily for us, we wound up in maybe the late spring with a couple of term sheets. So we had a couple investors who were ready to invest. We were just going through what's called the red line process, meaning they sent us some paperwork. Our lawyers marked it up and said, we don't like this term or that term. So we're really down in the details. We were about to take the deal, and maybe literally a couple days before we were going to take this deal from this one investor in Boston, Tomer, Yotpo's CEO, gave me a call, and he said, "Hey, have you ever thought about maybe joining our team rather than raising money and doing it on your own?" And so there was really a lot of soul searching that my co-founder and I had to go through. Right? It's flattering and it's exciting to get an acquisition offer, and as an entrepreneur, right? That's what a lot of us think about, whether we admit it or not. But what it really came down to is when we got over let's say the initial excitement, we really had to think about, okay, is Swell going to be in better hands, being run on our own and raising money and building the team and going out and finding the senior people that we need, but maybe it taking a couple iterations to get the right one, and what happens, how far can we get in the next couple of years with that model, versus Yotpo made us an offer we couldn't refuse. And I don't just mean from a financial perspective, but I mean their real selling point to us, the reason that they convinced us to join the team, was because they said, we've gone through all this process. What you're about to embark on for the next 3 to 5 years is what we've just gone through. And let us tell you, it is really hard. It is tough.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can certainly go through that. But what we could do is make it such that you get all these resources from our team. So we're going to give you a lot of leverage, and you're going to get that leverage much sooner. And so that was really the offer that we couldn't refuse. And I would say, to date, that's really been true. So just to give you a very tactical sense for exactly what that means, our team was about 15 people when the deal closed. And since then, let's see, there are 13 additional people that are now dedicated to Swell from the Yotpo team. And that's not even including some of the other groups that are helping us out, like their HR team or their finance team, for example. So very, very tactically, there's no way we could have hired 13 people overnight. All of a sudden, we have 13 plus new amazing team members. And so for us, it's really exciting, and we feel good about the decision so far.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I was just thinking, experience really is a great teacher. So I can see why there was alignment between Yotpo and yourself, because, if they've already gone through those next 3 to 5 years that you likely were going to struggle through potentially, because you're right, you needed to have, or you wanted to develop your roadmap further, or as you said, even having customer success managers, more of them, and really start building a world-class kind of a SaaS solution. It's definitely a challenge. So it's nice that Yotpo kind of not necessarily came to the rescue, because that's a win-win situation, I believe. They're bringing a lot of experience and some market clout in the e-commerce space. And then on the flip side, though, you're bringing a great technology stack that they don't have. And I could see, I'm sure that this is down the pipe, it's going to be a more enhanced tech stack available through Yotpo as an overall experience, more than just reviews and user generated content. There's other modules and things for more enterprise customers they could turn on, and maybe part of that would be a loyalty and rewards type solution.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think there are a lot of really exciting ideas that we have in terms of how our two organizations start to come together. But yeah, of course, in particular, what's really exciting for us, and hopefully for our mutual merchants, is the way in which our products start to come together. And there are a lot of different items on the table right now that we're just starting to work through. The roadmap is starting to get fleshed out for really the next 6 to 12 months and beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
What I can say right now is that the direct Yotpo to Swell integration, which has historically been in essence rewarding for product reviews, typically giving points for when let's see, users or end consumers submit product reviews through a Yotpo merchant. And so in the short term, there's the opportunity to really build out that integration, right? So when, for example, a customer uploads a photo or answers a question, right, our integration there will get much more robust. But without going into specifics in the short term, not because I promise I would be more than happy to share, but because we're still fleshing this out a little bit, we really think that what's going to be exciting for Swell is starting to get to leverage some of the really robust engineering function that the Yotpo team has. So they have a massive engineering team. They have some really amazing products that they've come out with in the past year. They just released a natural language processing tool, for example, which actually understands what they call the sentiment of the review, right? So maybe it's
Mm,
a 5-star
yeah.
review, but maybe the person still doesn't feel great about shipping time or customer service or something along those lines, right? They're able to pull out those insights. And so what we're working on is how we can start to leverage that to really help between how somebody refers or how somebody earns points through Swell and what their sentiment is in through a Yotpo review. We're starting to figure out how we can combine all of that into just this really deep understanding of the customer on behalf of our merchants that I don't think has really been attainable before when these types of solutions have stood apart.
Right. So Swell does, I guess, both rewards and referrals. I mean, there's quite a few different, I guess, solutions that are kind of available inside Swell. And do you tend to focus on one versus the other?
One thing that's been really important to us from the beginning is that we decided if we're going to have more than one tool in the platform, if we are going to make it a platform, so to speak, it's super important that those tools not just work well together, right? So, for example, it's great that a lot of our merchants can give, say, points when one of their customers earns a referral or when one of their customers refers a friend. But it's really important that those tools be best in breed on their own as well. Eventually, maybe you get to, from a platform perspective, you see companies like Adobe or IBM where they just have so many products and there ultimately is some benefit, even if one given product isn't the absolute best compared to some of the other tools out there. But we think it's really, really important that if somebody
Okay.
wants to use our referral program, then great, you can use our referral program on its own, and it works just as well as some of the standalone tools out there. Same goes for loyalty, but of course, again, there's benefit to using everything in the same platform. It's not just points; it's about consolidating that overall customer view, right? Consolidating your understanding of how your customers are interacting with your store. And so overall, I would say what we find is
Hmm.
about 60% or so of our merchants use both rewards and referrals together through Swell. About 30% or so use us for just referrals.
Right.
Probably the last 10%, give or take, will use us for just loyalty. And so we want the merchant to have the flexibility to choose, and we call it quote unquote incentive marketing, as you mentioned. And so it's this fancy term, but really at the end of the day, all it means is that we want the merchant to be able to give the incentives to their customers for what really matters to them, right? For the behaviors that the merchant is trying to drive, and whatever moves the needle for them is somewhere where we want to be helpful.
I see. It kind of reminds me. I interviewed OmniSend. It's a email marketing platform, marketing automation solution. A few weeks back, I think they originally were called Soundest, and they have kind of replatformed to OmniSend, and they have a very similar business model where the solution does email marketing kind of on its own and then some basic kind of sales automation, but they have lots of other different types of omni-channel type solutions that could really gain more reach. And you can go in and turn those features on, with a small extra fee or moving up to a pro plan. So it was interesting that, as the maturity of the merchant that's using the solution, they could, you're saying 60% or so are using both or all of the features that are available from within Swell, and 30% or so are just using maybe a one-off because that's all they really need at this point. The challenge that I found, other just people that I deal with, it's that the tech stack from a Shopify merchant perspective gets quite large, and I'm finding that a lot of the apps don't necessarily talk to each other correctly, or there's lots of other middleware to make things talk and interact. And so I'm happy to see that that's the kind of the journey that you're going down with Yapo, that there's like, hey, we've got a great solution. And, now we've got this machine learning and we're doing, like language processing, and now being able to now assimilate eventually at some point into the Swell solution, it really gives some opportunities to be able to turn things on as needed. And then the merchant can grow with the platform, makes it sticky. It makes them want to stay there. And it's the same kind of angle that what OmniSend is attempting to do now too, with SMS and bots and all the ways of kind of interacting with wherever your merchant happens to be post abandonment or re-engagement sequence. So it's interesting to see that that's kind of the journey that you're going down.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the biggest challenges, at least from a marketing technology perspective today, certainly in our Shopify ecosystem, is that many of these different marketing tools are absolutely amazing at what they do, right? So you can plug in 10 amazing point solutions, but the challenge, yeah, exactly, is getting them to talk to each other. And sure, integrations are popular today, and I know a lot of our merchants enjoy using the integrations that we make available, whether that's with the email marketing companies that we work with, or of course our UGC friends at Yotpo. But at the same time, it can be a massive challenge, and when all of the data about how these customers are interacting with your store sits in 10, 15, 20, maybe 50 different tools that you've plugged in, it's really hard to get that single all-encompassing view. And so if we can make a dent in that problem with what we're doing together with Yotpo today, then I think we're going to be really helpful for a lot of our shared merchants.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I do a lot of app audits for some merchants, and that's one of the first things I look at. I try to figure out, are they making the right decisions today about what they're actually using, and is there a more efficient solution? Could be more affordable or more powerful, and it opens up lots of conversations about marketing strategy based on what their public apps that they have in their admin. So there must be some interesting trends, I think, that are going on in your space. Do you have anything that you could kind of share with us today from what you see from your perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. So going back to us being a bootstrapped organization, right? The title co-founder or CEO or what have you is to me pretty meaningless. It's still pretty important to me, largely out of necessity that everybody on the team does their share of the heavy lifting, and so I still talk to an incredible amount of our customers and prospective customers. And I think one thing that we've noticed, in particular with a lot of let's say the larger Shopify Plus merchants, is that a lot of them are becoming what I would call discount averse. And so if we think about the past 5 years in e-commerce, whether it's sending emails, whether it's trying to recapture, let's say, abandoned carts, the standard has been to offer discounts in exchange for all of these actions. And I think what we're finding is that a lot of merchants realize that they're not only giving up a lot of margin by, say, sending that 10% off code or that get $15 off your next purchase type of code, but I think what we're really noticing is that they're finding their customers are waiting until they get that next coupon to make the purchase. The customers are being what's called conditioned to wait for that next discount, and otherwise they're a little bit more reluctant to make that second, third, fourth purchase. And right. Imagine as we think about loyalty, that's just super, super interesting to us. Not only because in many cases, a lot of our merchants give points, which eventually lead to a discount of some sort, but it really almost helps us to completely rethink what loyalty means, where if one of the main goals of loyalty is to encourage repeat purchases, it has us thinking, well, how are we going to help our merchants do this if some of our merchants who we feel like are really leading the way or are at the forefront, the cutting edge of e-commerce, if they're noticing these things and they're pushing back on us, how do we work with them? How do we get creative to help them start to solve this problem, anticipating that these findings will start to trickle down and a lot of other merchants will start to adopt the same behaviors. And so one thing that we've really been working on together with a lot of these larger merchants in particular recently has been what we call our VIP tier functionality. So it's not necessarily the silver bullet. It's not the complete solution to this challenge, but But one way that we get around using discounts with our program is by introducing this concept of VIP tiers, where for those of you who are unfamiliar, it essentially starts to say, well, when you spend a certain amount of money, or when you earn a certain number of points, or when you refer a certain number of friends, you're going to earn a new tier, and that tier comes with a graduated set of benefits. So maybe on a certain tier, you always get free shipping, or maybe you get a special customer service line, or it's really up to the brand to start to think about all the ways that they can create these amazing experiences for their customer. But what we find is just from a psychological perspective, it completely reframes the intent for the customer. So what we've actually noticed is that it makes the customer, instead of being conditioned for the discount, it makes them say, oh man, yeah, this is really exciting. I really want to get to this next tier so that I can, quote unquote, unlock this incremental benefit that I'm going to get. And so we've seen some really good early results. We're starting to roll out a few programs with some of our Plus merchants who are pursuing solely tier-based strategies. And so it's going to be really interesting to study that and see if that's sort of the way of the future.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic because my wife is out shopping right now for back to school for the kids, and they're small kids, so she's going to the Gap or Gymboree and a few different places, and and she is completely conditioned exactly the way that you're talking about, where maybe fashion brands have more margin, fair enough, which they do, but she's waiting for the 40 or 50 off plus the gym bucks that they're giving over $150, and it's so interesting that she's willing to wait for it, and then or if she buys in store at a certain deal and there's even a further discount that comes as an in-store promotion, or she buys in store and then gets an email a couple of weeks later with another random sale that comes up. It's so interesting that's unfortunately that's kind of the way some people are being conditioned, and I find it too even with cart abandonment. I think some savvy people are purposely that aren't urgently ready to buy something, they're purposely adding it to the shopping cart and putting their email address in and then abandoning it, hoping that there's going to be some kind of a discount code available that they couldn't find. And it's funny when you do search like for a brand coupon code or the brand, whatever it is, discount code, there's lots of coupon and discount sites out there promoting these things through their affiliate programs or whatever they're doing to share these codes. But it shows that that's kind of the mentality of a lot of merchants, of customers. But I can see what you're doing now with this VIP tiers, and I think it completely makes sense. It's almost like what Starbucks is doing too. I mean, they have an amazing rewards program with these stars, the bonus stars and things you get, and they know they know if you come every Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, and you don't come, they know, and they're sending you a message, or they know you never come in and buy a coffee at 2:00. Well, guess what? It's available from 3 until 5 today, and you get bonus stars, right?
Funny how that works, huh? Yeah,
It's funny how
absolutely.
that works.
Absolutely. No, it's true. And then it starts to speak to brand also, right? So the analogy I would start to think about would be for Swell ourselves, right? So when we think about bringing new clients on board, the way that we bring them on is not by enticing them with a discount, but by talking to them about how we're the premium offering, if you will. And so it's, in other words, if you're an e-commerce brand, it starts to allow you to draw certain perceptions about the brand that you're potentially buying from, and it starts to feel a little more luxurious, a little bit more upscale if you're a little bit less focused on discounts and more focused on other ways you can enhance the customer experience.
Right. Yeah. Now, what about, I guess the other part, I'm just thinking of your platform because you have quite a few different ways from rewards. I guess the other part would be referrals. And so can you kind of share your thoughts behind that about, and I guess my thought is that acquiring new users just really, especially through word of mouth or through referral marketing, it's certainly the cost per acquisition is lower than maybe paid acquisition that we're kind of used to with Facebook and ads and whatnot. So can you share with me kind of what you see in the referral space at this time?
Yeah, absolutely. So we spend a lot of time thinking about the experience that a customer has with a referral program from the time they see it, from the time they share their referral link all the way through to where that friend they're sending the link to makes their first purchase, right? And so along that pathway, if you will, it's about maximizing, say, shares of those referral links, from shares of referral links, the percentage of those that are clicked, and then once a referral link is clicked and a friend's on the site, of course, the golden ticket is focusing on conversions. So
Right.
what we've found in particular recently in terms of where we've been able to move the needle for our clients is that certain types of shares of referral links just do much, much better when it comes to clicks and then ultimately conversion compared to other types of shares. And so what I mean by that is that we've actually found that when somebody copies their link and say posts it in a forum or posts it on their Facebook newsfeed, it actually performs much, much worse. And that may seem a little bit counterintuitive, but to us, it actually makes a lot of sense. To us, it's such an impersonal type of share. So in other words, if you're scrolling through your Facebook newsfeed and you see something from, that guy you went to high school with that says, hey, get 15% off some brand I don't care about. Well, guess what? You might click on it for fun, but chances are you're not going to convert. And
Right.
so what we found is what we call these one-to-one types of shares are super beneficial. So by one-to-one, I mean, let's say an email. So, hey, Steve, this brand, I don't know, Movement watches, they seem really cool. I think you'll really like them. You should go check them out. As you might imagine, that converts so much better. We've seen
Mm-hmm.
maybe like up to 15 times better than just a general Facebook share. And so what we're really thinking about now is what other types of one-to-one mechanisms can we really help our merchants focus on, right? And so email is, of course, the bread and butter these days, but what about SMS? What about WhatsApp? What about Facebook Messenger, right? All these mechanisms, we have this hypothesis that they're going to work significantly better. And so we've started to roll some of those out, but definitely a focus going forward.
I've been talking a lot to some email marketing people and Klaviyo and a few others, and they've mentioned that maybe the open rate is could be as low as only 17%, maybe even lower in a lot of cases, and and that's why these other channels tend to get more attention. Be it Messenger or other social channels and stuff. So it's interesting how you're considering that and kind of creating this one-to-one relationship. It's almost like when you think of like web merchandising and creating a personalized experience on a store, and there's some great solutions that are out there to kind of help craft a great looking store that's very unique to the person that's viewing the site. And if they I always use this example, like on a pet store, and you consistently are buying stuff for a dog. There's no need in any kind of marketing copy or anywhere on the website that you need to start promoting cat stuff. And so it seems like you're going down the right journey of kind of, well, instead of it being disingenuous of like, hey, click this link, and it looks a little bit sleazy and stuff. So I can see that you're working on that one-to-one. So I think that's really neat that you're going down that path.
Yeah, one of those, I think it's a great point, and I think one of those buzzwords that you hear going around the e-commerce ecosystem nowadays is personalization, right? And lo and behold, if you make something more relevant for a customer or a potential customer, imagine that they're going to be more likely to buy. And so it's not rocket science, but finding ways to do that within each of our respective tools has been, yeah, I think it's been a big innovation in the past couple of years.
Absolutely. And how have you dealt with discount codes? Because I know there's been some buzz kind of, in around Shopify about, links and stuff that kind of can pre-populate discounts through embedded links and whatnot. Is there anything about the referral business with regards to discount codes?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say one of our merchants really drove it, but we had a handful of merchants who were asking us to completely change the way that our referral program worked, probably around this time last year. And so we actually made some changes there. We released what we call a discount code based referral program. And so what that actually consists of is the ability for someone to use, instead of a link, a discount code where they pass along to their friend. It's easier to put in, say, an Instagram profile or or something along those lines. And so the customer, the friend, the new customer can simply enter it in at checkout. And so a lot of our merchants talk to us about how it just removes a lot of the friction in the process. And of course, that's really the name of the game. So I think we've just had some really interesting findings so far with that. Still, jury's still out a little bit on some of the pros and cons of that type of program, but certainly just getting the customer straight through that journey of the referral program is really has been very beneficial from an ROI perspective.
I'm looking forward to that case study to see how that's rolling out, because I can see, like I said, I've seen the buzz in and around Shopify talking about that, people like the idea of having inserting a link and having it already in the cart with a discount, and then in this case, offering an incentive to someone else based on that link. And you're right, it's much more personalized, being able to offer an exclusive coupon code if it all works its way back up to the top about where's the originating party, and it builds more loyalty and just builds more customers for that brand. So I think that's really, really cool. So we are nearing the end of the show, but congratulations again on this kind of serendipity that's happened with looking for VC money potentially just because you didn't want to bootstrap anymore, and it just made time to kind of advance the product, and then lo and behold, Yotpo kind of fits into the mix, and it's great. Funny today, I just happened to notice I went to the site and I see that it says a Yotpo company under Swell, so that looks very official now.
I can give you the background, and that there are a lot of moving pieces when it comes to this type of acquisition. But even the decision around, do we call it a Yotpo company? Do we call it Swell by Yotpo? So there was back and forth, but they left it to us at the end of the day. And so yes, we are officially a Yotpo company, and definitely excited to be part of it.
Very cool. So how can people learn more about Swell Rewards?
Yeah, so probably the best way is to just head straight to www.swellrewards.com. A lot of information on our site. We have a lot of resources, so some good white papers and blog posts and case studies and things along those lines. And of course, if anybody is interested in learning more directly, we do have the opportunity directly on the store there to submit a demo request, and I'm sure somebody from our team would be happy to walk you through the platform.
Perfect. I know just before we started recording, you offered a listener-only promotion, which I do really appreciate. I think it's for those that are listening that haven't installed a rewards program yet, a loyalty program, referral program, I think you should really seriously have a really serious look at Swell and kind of what they offer. I have firsthand experience and of merchants and clients that are using a solution, and I know it's powerful. I know it works. I know it helps generate more revenue and lifetime value. So please, let them come to the table if you're kind of vetting any other solutions that are out there on the market, and they do have a great solution. And so the team has offered 50% off for the first 3 months. So it's definitely worth it to at least vet the solution and get a demo and attach it to your store or to your dev store and see what you can do with the solution. And I'll update the show notes. There's an email address where you can get that offer after you get your trial. It'll be team@swellrewards.com. And from that point, their onboarding team will be able to help you from that point. So yeah, Josh, thanks again for coming on the show. It's great to catch up. Well, you have yourself a great day, and congrats again.
All right. Thanks, Steve.
I hope you enjoyed my conversation today with Josh from Swell Rewards. The Yotpo acquisition is proof that, Swell has created a great platform, that will enhance your full marketing strategy and improve performance in customer acquisition, customer retention, and most importantly, customer lifetime value. Rewards, referrals, influencers, and kind of email acquisition are kind of all part of their marketing suite. So if you've not invested in this necessary tech stack, to grow and scale your Shopify store, make sure you check them out at Swell Rewards, SWELL, swellrewards.com, and mention this podcast for the 50% off deal for the first 3 months. Now, if you're enjoying this podcast, I'd be so grateful if you could take a few minutes and rate and review the show in iTunes. It's one of the best ways that you can kind of show your appreciation for the continued production of this show. And thanks again for being a supporter and a loyal listener. On the next episode of E-commerce Fastlane, I have a chat with Eric Christensen, who is the co-founder and CEO of Just Uno. Now, they've developed a conversion optimization suite for sales conversions, growing your email list, and kind of on-site promotions using real-time user data. And on a high level, they kind of inspire retailers like you to invest in their website visitors to kind of monetize eyeballs. And, really they help to solve kind of top of the funnel kind of lead capture and the bottom of the funnel kind of sales conversions. It's a platform trusted by over 20,000 store owners just like you. And I'm excited for you to check out this episode and learn more about how you can maximize the traffic that you are getting to your store. Well, thanks again for taking time on your busy day or your commute and listening to the show. I truly appreciate you and your entrepreneurial journey with commerce powered by Shopify. Until then, enjoy the rest of your week and take care.